Well, we'll get started. Thank you all for coming out to the From Rescued to Restored Stories and Strategies to Saving Endangered Places. If this is not the talk you're expecting, feel free to sign off. Hopefully you can find the right one that you're looking for. My name is Brad Miller. I'm the Preservation Manager for Maine Preservation. And just to get started, we'll do a few quick housekeeping rules. Just, please mute your line so that we don't get any background noise. We are recording the program so we can put it up on our website later for people to view that can't make it this afternoon. So please just do so. If you have any questions, hold them to the end. We'll have a time for a Q&A at the end. And you can also feel free to type them into the chat if you like. And that way I can read them off to the speakers. And with that, we can get on our way. We have some great stories from three very special places here in Maine, and kind of their journey to being rescued. But first, just a little bit about who we are, Maine Preservation. So we've been around since 1972, and we're a statewide member-based preservation advocacy nonprofit dedicated to promoting and preserving historic places, buildings, downtowns, and neighborhoods, strengthening the cultural and economic vitality of Maine communities. So very much getting out all across the state. You can see on our map, that's some of our touch points over the past few years. And to kind of really parse out what we do with our mission, first is technical assistance through our field services program. That is us getting out into the field and talking with you and with property owners and nonprofit organizations, looking at older buildings and older properties and providing our technical assistance with rehabilitation, preservation, and all things old buildings. Our second part is financial support. So primarily that is operated through a sub-grant program through the 1772 Foundation, which we're able to provide sub-grants to nonprofits across the state who are preserving and rehabbing their historic properties as part of their mission. Third part is stewardship. So we do that primarily through our Protect and Sell program, as well as our easement program. So this is where we are trying to find preservation-minded buyers for historic properties, as well as using preservation easements to protect those properties in perpetuity. So if you are interested in learning more about those, feel free to reach out. The fourth part is education. This is probably the most important thing and most important aspect of our mission. So making sure that we're getting the word out about preservation and trying to connect to new audiences to share that story. Advocacy at the local, state, and federal level to enhance preservation activities in Maine. And then promotion. So something we'll talk about today, which is the Endangered Historic Places list and our honor awards. We're a small team, so I always like to show our faces because we're going to be out and about in the state. Tara Kelly, our executive director, Jonathan Hall, field services manager. You've already met me. Gina LaMarche, our director of development, and Sarah Oberink, our outreach associate. So hopefully you'll see us out and about, and we're always happy to come to your community and just let us know, and we'll try and make it out there. So technical assistance, these are a few of the properties that Jonathan Hall, our field services manager, has primarily gotten out to in the past few years. And like I said, we can do building assessments, energy efficiency audits, and taking a look and trying to provide sound advice that takes into account the historic fabric of properties. Financial support, this is our round of grant recipients from that 1772 Foundation grant program in 2021. And you can see it goes to a pretty diverse set of historic buildings. And we're always interested to finding ways to help fund properties and projects across the state. Stewardship. So this is again through our Protect and Sell program and our preservation easement. These are 4 properties that we hold preservation easements on, and we help guide the preservation and rehabilitation of those projects, including reviewing preservation plans, as you see in this picture. The largest one being Sabbath Day Lake Shaker Village in New Gloucester, which is a whole village full of 16 buildings dating from the late 18th century into the 20th century. So a very dynamic place, obviously also still operating as an active Shaker community. So a very interesting place to visit, and I would encourage you to do so. And then education. So one thing that I wanted to highlight is our driving tours or Drive Me tours. We did this as part of the state's bicentennial celebration, putting together tours of historic and significant places across the state. And those are divided up by region. So if you ever find yourself in a certain part of the state and looking for something to do, please check out our website and learn more about our Drive Me tours. Advocacy, as I mentioned, we're always advocating for legislation and policy that is supportive of preservation. Most recently, that was helping to advocate for the passage of LD 201, which extended the historic rehabilitation tax credit until 2030, which is a very powerful tool that helps redevelopment of historic properties across the state. And then one way we like to give back is through our Honor Awards program, and that's looking at historic properties that have been rehabilitated in the past year and recognizing them through our Honor Awards program. One of the speakers today is actually a recipient, the Old Surry School, which we'll hear about today, and they earned their award in 2019. And then most relevant to our conversation today is our most endangered historic places list. So this is probably one of our strongest advocacy tools where we are trying to figure out what those places and spaces are in Maine that are in jeopardy of being lost and are meaningful to communities. And this is one way that we're able to do that by identifying those places and educating others about their importance, not just those local communities, but with residents across the state. We are in our 26th year of our endangered list being in place as a tool for preservation in Maine. Last year, in our 25th year, as a celebration of 25 years, we looked kind of at the past, present, and future of the list. So we identified 3 properties that are currently endangered. Probably the most pressing was the East Machias First Congregational Church, which is currently undergoing stabilization and restoration. The timber frame structure holding up the steeple was an imminent means of collapse, and they're able to stabilize that, and they are working diligently. A local friends group is working on that. Looking at buildings that we previously listed but are still in process, like McCurdy's Smokehouse down in Lubec, which a local group's working to raise funds to help stabilize, which is a deteriorating structure, and along with the increasing threat of rough tides and increased weather events due to climate change. And then we're also took that last year to celebrate the successes of the endangered list, just like we'll hear about today. One of those being the Wood Island Life Saving Station, which is near completion. And like I said, the list is a way for us to educate the public and get the concerns of local communities, get those concerns broadcasted out to gain support. And it's not a way to kind of vilify the property owners in any way. It's to draw support and public, draw public attitudes towards that building and improve the situation, and then find strategies and solutions to at least stabilize and work towards a long-term solution to saving and preserving these buildings. And that's what we'll hear about today. So without further ado, I'll welcome our first speaker, Glyneta Thomson, who was the founder of the Old Surry Village School in Surry, Maine. This was listed on the endangered list in 2015. And as I mentioned earlier, completed the restoration and won an honor award in 2019. So I'd like to welcome Glyneta to talk a little bit about their process and their success.
Thank you very much, Brad. I'm so glad to be here, and I love the picture that you chose to put up for the Old Surry Village School. Surry, Maine is in Hancock County on the Union River, and looking east from us is Mount Desert, Bar Harbor. So if any of you are coming from Ellsworth over to Blue Hill, you come through the village of Surry, and we're very easy to locate. We had a difficult road ahead of us when we first realized that the selectmen who run our town and are basically the owners of the old Surry Village School decided that it was no longer in use, and so was going to have to be burned down. That is actually what they were going to do. They were going to have the fire department was going to have a controlled burn and burn this beautiful building down. And a group of people decided that there's so much that of value and the architectural history of the many boat builders and builders in our town made it. We realized that we had to do something to save it. One of the quotes that I like to use from the selectmen is, "The town was eager to unload the building because of its state of disrepair, its vacancy, and the cost of liability insurance to the town of Surry. As it stands now, it's a hazard to the town, a liability." We actually had a contractor come in and look at the building and tell us that it was totally feasible with money invested into this building to save this. So what we did when we formed the Old Surry Village Preservation Group, we brought a proposal to the town of Surry that we would use no taxpayer funds to repair, rehabilitate, restore, and bring this building, which had been in constant use for the nearly 150 years at that time in 2015. It is interesting that 2022, we are celebrating our sesquicentennial 150th anniversary. And we have a lot of different activities that are going on. We started with a very generous donor who said, "I'm not going to give you $20,000, but I will give you a challenge. You raise $20,000 and I will give you $20,000. And so we did that. We sold a lot of brownies. We made a lot of pies. We had a lot of yard sales. And through other generous donors, we were able to come up with that $20,000, which gave us $40,000. And so that's what happened. A little bit of history about this building. In 1872, it was completed, and it housed the high school for Surry students. And then in the 1930s, the elementary school started coming to this school, and we sent our high school students off to either Blue Hill or Ellsworth High School. And so for another until 1952, it served as the school for Surry students. In 1953, as this picture shows, the front part of the building was taken off. 2 fire doors were put up, and the beautiful maple floor was taken down, and they poured some cement, and it was the Surry Volunteer Fire Department for 35 years. And upstairs, it became one of the focus points for dinners, bingo, committee meetings, and different things like that. And then in 1987, the Surry Fire Department Auxiliary opened it up as a nonprofit community center until 2014. There was the 1 year that it was unoccupied, and that is when in 2015, the town of Surry decided that they would destroy the building. In 2016, after raising a little bit of money, getting some estimates of what it was going to cost, the very feasibility of it happening, we had a special town meeting, and by a vote of 3-1, the townspeople said, at no cost to the town, sounds like a good deal to us. And so they gave us this opportunity and let us start on the rehabilitation project. From 2016 until 2019, we worked tirelessly. This is a picture of the upper floor, And we didn't do anything except scrape the walls and scrape the ceiling, because look at that beautiful maple floor that is on the second story. And look at the lighting on the right-hand side. This is a beautiful building. And there's a later picture in here that Brad has that shows the desks that we have accumulated. We were able to repair a bulge on the foundation and the east wall of the building with a professional that did that and changed the location of the stairway, and also put back the front of the facade of the building, because that was one of the things that we needed to do to even have this building considered. This is underneath here is the cement floor that we had for the fire trucks. And then we put 2x4s and did all of our wiring. We totally rewired the building. And then we put over this beautiful maple flooring that you can see on the right-hand side there. The building was totally rewired. We put plumbing in. We put a little galley kitchen and a bathroom, and we moved the stairs from the side of the west side of the building to the front side of the building. And on the front side of the building where the doors were, we were able to find, you can see this is what it looked like when we started. Over on the left-hand side with the old-fashioned tin doors and windows over the top. The Maine Historic Commission told us in order to get on the National Register, we would have to put the traditional 4-panel doors with the transom over the top, and that's what we were able to do. I did want to explain that one of the most important things that happened to us, and when we got the letter which said, the Maine Historic Preservation Commission is pleased to inform you that the Surry Village School was entered in the National Historic Register, March 13th, 2020, by the National Park Service. That was so special to us because that was one of our main goals. Since our building has been restored, during the time that we were fundraising for it, we got some regular free, we fundraised, but we also had some free events that people have come to enjoy. And we now are able to house committee meetings of the town. We hosted a boat building and safety, and some of these activities. This picture that Brad has up here now, this is kind of an interesting story. Those desks on the far right, the 3 rows of the far right, they are the actual desks that came out of this school. And they were found 3 years after we started restoring the building. One of our volunteers said, I've sold my house, I've got to clean out the barn. And I said, well, you know us, if we find anything that has to do with school, let us know. And she called me the next day and she said, up in the haymow, you are never going to believe what I found. 33 desks that came out of the old Surry Village School when it closed in 1952. And her grandfather had been on the school board, and he said, put them up in the haymow. Somebody may need them someday. And I think that was very fortuitous, and we have been so lucky to have it. Most recently, we have been asked by the town of Surry to not only house committee meetings and safety meetings and firehouse meetings and different fundraisers for different people, but the Historical Society has given many lectures down there, not just on educational things, but things that are of interest into the town of Surry. As far as the cost of our building, we were given at the beginning, one of the groups who was going to restore the building to begin with, the price was way up in the $500,000. We spent far less than that, and we did not have to use any grants at this point. We may have to apply for a grant to paint the building, but otherwise we do not have to plan to use any grant money. We are now with the rental of the building and with the different fundraisers that we host yearly, we are able to more than put into a reserve account the amount of money that the town of Surry raises and appropriates every year for the school. so that we are doing very well, and we are very happy with what has happened, what continues to happen, and we are hoping that we have another 150 years to share this wonderful building in the town of Surry. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Glyneta. And here I finished with the slide of the flagpole, which Glyneta had mentioned that it was recently replaced, but it was the original that was still hanging out up there. All right. Well, our next speaker is John Perry. He is the treasurer of the Readfield Union Meeting House Company, and I will welcome John to share the story about Readfield Union Meeting House, which is a spectacular brick, early 19th century meeting house. It's very unique. It's not your standard wood frame, white clapboard meeting house that we see in most communities in Maine. John.
Thank you, Brad, for coming to visit a week or two ago. We had a great time, and we would love to show the building off to more people. So anyone that's interested, please get in touch with the Union Meeting House and come see us. We're about 15 miles from Augusta. First slide, please, Brad. The Union Meeting House was originally constructed back in the 1820s. It was, shall we say, a community project back then. It was put together so that different religious groups within the town, and I think there were maybe 4 of them, pooled their money, their resources, their energies together and decided we want a real building we can be proud of. So they designed and constructed a 40 by 60 brick building using bricks that were mined on the shore of the local lake, mined and fired. So actually to do that, they probably started in the early 1820s, started by making bricks. When they got it constructed, they put together a charter for operating, and it involved individuals in the community who would each purchase and retain a deed for a particular pew. There probably were 80 pews in the building at the time. And so there were maybe 80 families who put a little of their money into buying a pew to begin with, and then were on the hook to maintain the building when something needed fixing. So there would be either a work party for the pew holders, or they would have to contribute some of their own money to get someone else to do the work. But the meeting house was totally maintained by the people who were using it. In the 1860s, apparently there was extra money around, and the interior of the meeting house was modernized, shall we say. It was the Victorian age, and trompe-l'oeil was a style of artwork that was much in favor, and they decided to hire some local people, an architect out of Lewiston, and a wall painter and artist from Portland to completely revise the interior of the meeting house, and we'll show that on the next slide. A couple of other interesting facts: as when they got the building the way they wanted, then people started to leave the meeting house to go to their own church for worship services, and slowly but surely usage declined, so that the people who could make maintenance on the building, which was now getting to be 50, 60, 70 years old, weren't around to take care of the building. So things started happening. It deteriorated. Actually, the spire, a 30-foot structure, blew off the top in the great gale of December 1916, which got people depressed even further. There were less people coming to church. So it was the meeting house and the maintenance of the meeting house went into decline through the 1920s and 40s, until in 1950, when people looked around, there was nobody left to pay the bills and to do any repairs. That's a sad situation. Brad, if you can go to the next slide. This is a picture of what the meeting house looked like about 1900. And it was a pretty impressive structure even then, but if you look carefully, you can see some of the decoration at the top of the clock tower. There were wooden, probably cedar urns that had been placed up there when the building was built. But by 1900, you can see that some of them are falling off, even though the balustrade is intact. The building was getting rough even at that point. Next slide. The interior, though, and this is what it looked like when the interior was put together in 1868. The interior was beautiful. Almost anyone who comes to visit says it is beautiful. They're awestruck to see the decoration, which even now, 150 years later, is almost exactly the way the artist left it in 1868. There are stained glass windows, and you don't see them very well in this photo, but some original stenciled glass windows. Probably the best examples of that particular style of window decoration that exists in Maine today. The stained glass windows were a later addition in the 1930s. But all of the interior, where it looks like there are columns and decorations, plaques on the front wall, that's all paintwork. It's all designed on a flat surface so that visually you see something that's not really there. You have to really come and visit us to appreciate it. Let's go on to the next photo, next slide, please. When there were no pew holders left, it's our great fortune, absolutely vital in my opinion, that Ernie Bracey, who was not affiliated at all with anything that was going on in the meeting house, he was a neighbor and he was very interested in the community. He recognized that the meeting house was wearing down, was coming apart. And so in 1951, he and some of his legal help rewrote the charter of the meeting house, which previously depended on pew holders. He rewrote it, had it rewritten so that there were 3 trustees appointed to watch out for maintenance, and those trustees had the ability to go out and look for public funds to help to take care of the necessary repairs. So they started to clean up, do what they could to keep out the weather, and sent out letters and leaned on people to send in some money. Next slide, please. And so the public did get involved by attending weddings, scheduling and attending weddings, funerals, graduations. There were suppers, strawberry festivals, musical events. There were a couple of groups of people that called this their home turf, because the acoustics within the meeting house were so very soothing to the musicians that they wanted to come back here as often as they could. Ernie kept writing letters, got a much broader list of people that he could call on for funds. He was the spark plug that kept things going for decades, literally. Residents were coming there because they liked the place. There were interesting things going on. They were leaving a little bit of money. The money was put into the building to try to keep it upright and keep the weather and the critters out. But still, it was obvious the building itself needed more than just a little day-to-day maintenance. Next slide, please. There was a need to stabilize the meeting house. There were problems in the foundation. Part of the ceiling was crumbling. The roof was leaking in place. It was the second roof on the building, which was a corrugated iron roof installed in the early 1900s. But it started to rust through in places. So there was water coming in through the roof. The building lacked any sort of a bathroom. There may have been an outhouse somewhere out back, but there's no evidence of where it was at this point. And for public meetings and gatherings, a bathroom was needed. So all of these sort of major repairs or improvements were tackled as a result of the building going on the National Register in 1982, applying for and getting a 501c3 nonprofit status. That took another revision of the charter, the state charter for the building, for the company. So these bigger problems were fixed. But as all of us do, the people who were doing the work, the trustees, limited to 3, were getting older. Next slide. Okay, here's a picture. One of the major repairs, putting on a new standing seam metal roof. They had actually, you can't see it very well in this picture, but they had stripped off the corrugated tin roof, and there were some of the original cedar shingles that got stripped off too. Some of those are laying on the ground in front of the 2 workmen on the ground. So they were doing things right. Next slide, please. After these major projects that got done in the decades leading up to the early 2000s, the trustees themselves were getting long in the tooth, and in some cases they expired or at least went away, including Ernie, who passed away in 2007. The company decided to reorganize in 2009, putting in a board of directors and allowing for membership, which has been very beneficial in putting more people into the organization and having more bodies to do the work, as well as recruiting members who, in exchange for a membership, get to know that some of the basic funds needed to maintain and repair the building are in place, sort of keeping the lights on money. The board's first action was to do a survey of the building, an assessment, which identified the major repairs and improvements needed to get the building back to a fully restored, as originally built condition. And that has been the guiding document for the last decade or so. And of course, the plan to do things like that, it needs money. We have done some major projects, including putting $250,000 into supporting the floor and things like that. But it does take a lot of money. And some of the techniques we've used are listed below: grant writing, asking people for pledges to pay a little bit this year and some next year and the year after and the year after. That works in a good economy. We're not in a particularly good economy right at this moment, so we're not doing much of that. Do not underestimate publicity. That's necessary. And we've had some really good luck in selling pieces of the particular improvement, such as selling a rafter. We put 144 into our floor and sold every last one of them. So here are some things that I would pass along as lessons learned in our history. Do the routine stuff, do the little maintenance whenever it pops up, because that's going to keep you from having bigger problems. Do some planning. We had a restoration plan. There may be other ways to do it, but think about what you're going to do. Know what the next 5 or 6 years of work is got to look like. Become good fundraisers. It's not easy, it's not fun, but of course you need to do it. Go work the grants. Another way to get some money. There is a lot of grant money out there, but again, you have to work at it. Involve the community and be patient. This is going to take time. Things will pop up that you didn't expect. Deal with it. Don't lose sight of the plan, and keep pushing. Plan for people who are on your board this week and this month, but may not be there next month. There is going to be turnover. You need to be recruiting new people to fill in where others have departed. Next slide. That's a current picture from the road. So if you're coming to Readfield, look for this on Church Road, right up from the flashing light, and stop in and take a visit. That's my
Thank you so much, John. Thank you. And I forgot to mention that the Union Meeting House was listed on our endangered list in 2019. So not always the building you're thinking about when it's on an endangered list, but it's in immediate means of collapse, or a storm hit it and created and caused damage. There's many different ways to think about how a place can be endangered, and we can talk about that. So I'd like to welcome our last speaker, Sam Reid, who's the board president of Wood Island Life Saving Station Association, which the Wood Island Life Saving Station was listed on our endangered list in 2017. And since then, and probably before that too, they've been up to a lot of good stuff. So I'll hand it over to Sam.
Howdy, howdy. Let's try a screen share. Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great. I'm going to do a screen share, right? And I'm going to go find, hold please. Let's go get ready properly. Thank you. Hang on one second. I'm almost there. Maine preservation presentation coming shortly, boys and girls. And let's go to share. Ooh, this looks like a presentation. Ooh, look at that. I'm going to go to file. Slideshow. Here we go. Are you ready? Can you see it? Does it say Wood Island? Somebody say yes.
Yes.
Hey,
Yes,
okay,
yes.
here we go, boys and girls. I'm going to give you a short and sweet. Here we go. It's going to be fantastic. You're going to love it. Maine preservation, Wood Island in 10 minutes or less, June 21st. That is Wood Island. It is a funny little spot at the entrance of the Piscataqua River between Maine and New Hampshire. A very bad place to put a building, actually, now that you mention it. Look at that. Ooh, that's amazing. Big moonrise, looking pretty good. So I'm Sam. I'm the president of the board of the charity. I really love historic preservation. I love boats. Wooden boats are amazing. I'm also on the board of a national organization of life-saving station folks. And thank you very much for having me. I believe, and we'll check this, I believe this project was put on Maine Preservation's most endangered list in 2012. We can check that, but it was absolutely critical to the success of this project. I'm going to tell you about the Restoration Maritime Museum, but let's just leave it with one big message, and that is brave men rowing out to save others. And that is a good idea of what we're talking about. A great artist, Donald Demers, did that one. It's extraordinary. This is what it looks like today. It's literally the same mission. Coast Guard heading out. This is October, going out on their 47-footer. Nobody was in danger. They were just having a drill, but that's pretty special. That is a historic boat that we've gotten our hands on. And I say this all the time, which is a little bit silly, but if you're having any trouble sleeping, I strongly recommend the video on our webpage called The Acquisition of the Mervyn Roberts. It's 26 minutes long. It'll lull you to sleep, but it's all about how we found this boat and how we restored it, and it's insane. Here's a sample of it, taking it apart, putting it all back together. That is extraordinary. So we have one of these original boats at the Life Saving Station, meaning that this project is about a whole lot more than historic preservation. It's also about maritime history and how we're going to not only educate the public about this, but have a fully operational life-saving station, which basically does not exist in the US. That is Wood Island right there, Maine-New Hampshire border. Look at these guys. I mean, phenomenal. These are actually gentlemen from Newcastle, New Hampshire, handsome gentlemen that they are. And this is on patrol, going to make sure that everyone's okay. This is the first photo of Wood Island. You see that big ramp? I'm going to come back to that in a minute. So there are only 9 life-saving stations in Maine that still exist. There were 12. So, you know, there are gabs of lighthouses. So the key point here is everyone talks about lighthouses. They are a dime a dozen. There are at least 65 of them, but there are only 9 life-saving stations. Of the 9, only 3 are on the National Register, and there'll be one more. That'll be Wood Island. So there's only one life-saving station that's open to the public. It's a bed and breakfast in Cranberry Island, but frankly, none are historically restored as museums in Maine. So they're extremely rare. There may be 8 or 10 in the entire United States. It's called a modified Duluth type. The first one was built in Duluth, Minnesota. This one opened January 1908. There were many, many rescues, many lives saved, but emphasizing it is not a lighthouse. That is a lighthouse. And that lighthouse is right next to Wood Island. It's called Whaleback. Had a wonderful visit this morning from 2 Coast Guard officers who have just changed out the light, the optic in whaleback to make it more historically accurate, and was just thanking them. It was wonderful. Here is a fine photo. Look at this photo. This is Wallace Sands Life Saving Station, about 1900, and an extraordinary, iconic image. Look at these guys. I would bring to your attention, they are sitting on snow. That is blocks of ice. That is not a warm and cuddly day in late June. That is a tough life. So these are the kind of guys we're dealing with. These folks were out of Rye, New Hampshire. Love, love, love the uniforms, the shoes. If I don't have one of these sweaters shortly, I'm going to be very upset. This is a spectacular Rye Beach Life Saving Station sweater. Look at that. That's so cool. And here they are. They're launching their boat, doing a little practice. I'm just emphasizing the human portion of this. We get excited about buildings, but it's always nice to know who was there and who was using them. There they are. So here's the vision. The vision is a fully restored station with the tourist boats coming in. The flag is flying. The Marine Railway is operational. All sorts of fun things are happening. This is where we started the process. I mean, an absolute disaster, fully derelict building. Pieces of the building are missing. They're birds. There's 6 inches of toxic bird guano. It's literally a disaster. This was the beginning of it. 2016, 4th of July, we took it apart. 2017, 4th of July. That's what it looks like today. So it's come a long way. But this project isn't really just about the building. It is also about the island and the site work. So there's that Marine Railway I was mentioning. The building is really like a boat garage. The boats lived in there on special cradle. The special cradle had train wheels to operate down this Marine Railway. So there they go. Look at that. Dolliver's Neck in Gloucester does no longer exist. It was demolished. So this is a super rare photo. It's the only photo I've ever seen of a life savings crew coming down a Marine Railway. That looks chilly, late winter. Oof. So the point being, it was used from 1908 to 1941. In World War II, the US Navy came in. It was deactivated soon after that war. Kittery became the owner. They really didn't take care of it. So here's a quick glimpse. That is not great. We're talking poison ivy, 3 stories tall. Ooh, but that's better. And that is guano on the floor, looking nasty. Ooh, but that's better. I was just there now. The sheetrock started to be installed this week. Looks fantastic. That does not look so great. Ooh, but that looks better. That is just a disaster. That is second floor. Again, come a long way. The basement, Dante's Inferno, we're talking bad, bad, bad. Asbestos everywhere. That looks a whole lot better. This is the very special room. This is the boat room where all the boats would come in. Look at their plants growing out of the floor. Looking better. Again, 2016, but we start putting a roof on it. Ooh, look at that. Ooh, 2017 windows. Ooh, shingles. Ooh, phenomenal. Whoopsie. These, you can't see them. They're in camo, but they're there. I promise, no, I'm joking. That is the Maine Army National Guard. And we have had this incredible partnership with the National Guard. They have come and helped us build seawalls as part of their annual training. So you see, we've restored the building here, but you see the right-hand portion, it's just not there. It's eroded. About an eighth of the island is just missing. High tide came right through that every day. So that is not good. And the Marine Railway is in tatters. So 2018, the National Guard rebuilt the North Wall, massive, massive wall. Crazy. They brought 60 men and women twice, 120 soldiers, 30 straight days, 7 days a week, just crazy. And this is the beginning. They took out what was left of the wall, started making forms. That is a lot of soldiers, huge blocks. That's a crazy photograph. This is how we did it. Great big barge, bringing, I think 24 concrete trucks to the North Wall. I mean, crazy, crazy, crazy stuff. That's how we got the blocks there. And this is a model that is well worth Maine preservation emphasizing, because I think nationwide, others could learn from this and using the National Guard for historic preservation. I mean, obviously, cutting edge stuff, no one's doing that. So it's worth talking about. It's good when the National Guard brings out their battle flag from their company. They're not fooling around when they do that. So there, we're back to the Marine Railway. That is just an absolute disaster of an image. You know, Marine Railway in tatters, seawall in tatters. Here we go. We're going to rebuild. Ooh, that looks better. Ooh, that looks a lot better. Come back, the National Guard returned in 2019, rebuilt the south seawall. They also put in this crazy rec pole, ramping, site work, electrical. A lot of stuff happened. There's your friend Sam in the middle. I'm looking very well dressed there. And here comes the south seawall rebuild. Here they come, phenomenal. Again, huge forms, again, blocks. I mean, crazy stuff. Massive flagpole. This is a crazy photo. There are 1, 2, 3 concrete trucks on the island at once. The barge is there. There's some sort of excavator. There's a man lift. That is chaotic. So we're back to the boat I mentioned when we started. This is the nice man that's restoring the boat for us. Nate Greeley. I love the t-shirt. T-shirt's fantastic. You see this boat is very, very similar. It's from Fisher's Island in New York. You see it sitting on a cradle with train wheels. So we had one of those built. And this is existing. It's actually in a box right now. But we just got a text about an hour ago from the wooden boat building man saying he wants the cradle. He's ready to start fixing it to the boat. So that cradle is going to operate on the Marine Railway at Wood Island later this summer. And that's a big deal. Remember that. So there's the Marine Railway. Here's the computer generated image. That's the original plan from 1907, which is no joke that we got our hands on that. And if you want to go look at our webpage, we have an interactive, fully interactive. You can sort of fly in, out, up, down, all around and look at the whole design. And here it comes. We're going to build this pier and this Marine Railway. Ooh, look at that. Ooh, that's amazing. Ooh, that's even better. And we needed this pier because we plan to operate as a maritime museum. So we need the tourist boats that are on the Piscataqua to be able to get there. This is a custom built, ridiculously huge 14,000 pound float. It's 10 by 48. Ooh, that looks pretty good. And we used it as a boat to take the massive gangway out there. That's a big day when you put you finish the pier, you connect the Marine Railway. This was July 7 last summer. That is the engineer sitting at the end of the thing. I think that's pretty funny. Looking good, looking really good. But you know what would be better? We had the National Guard come out again last summer, just briefly. There were only 30 of them for 5 days. And you know it's crazy when you think 30 men for 5 days is a small number, but it was great. They did a lot of work. There's your friend Sam again. Ooh, that looks pretty sexy, I gotta say. But you know what we should do? We should also rebuild the Marine Railway. And so we got to that also last summer. Here it comes, getting good. Ooh, that's pretty amazing. Ooh, that is extraordinary. And there are the men putting in the train track. That rail is from 1896. So it is historically accurate size, what was there. So we've built this thing like you cannot believe. So our purpose is educating the public, celebrating the history. Remember, you know, the brave men who were there. It'll also be available for event rentals. You'll be able to spend the night. And we've started collecting artifacts, and a lot of interesting folks have come forward with original artifacts. So that's really helpful. This man's name is Charles Hand. He was one of the keepers at Wood Island, and a lot of cool stuff of his has appeared. So the question is in 2022, can we wrap this up, finish off the interiors, start to think about museum exhibits, you know, actual, you know, furniture, wastewater, freshwater systems are all getting ready to go. And I emphasize, we're working on a little slogan, which we'll see if it takes. Helping others then, helping others now. What do you think? It's got some legs. The idea is we're going to host a fireworks show for the public, our charity, on August 6th. And that's because it's the Coast Guard's birthday. It's National Coast Guard Day. So we're asking the public to come watch the fireworks, but bring non-perishable food. So we'll have the food banks there receiving it. So we're talking about historic preservation, of course, but we're going further than that. And we have lots of other examples of helping other charities. The best example currently is the local high school. So we have, in the last year and a half, created a program. We've paid for it, $35,000 we raised, for the Kitteries High School called Trape Academy to begin a wooden boat building class for the kids. And we're talking 47 students have been through the program, learning all these new skills. They've just finished their first boat. They're going to build a second one. We, the charity, get the boats, but the kids have this fantastic experience and learn this skill. There is a gorgeous plan of a beautiful historic boat. Here's the classroom, beautiful classroom. This is the wonderful wooden boat builder that coming up from Lowell's Boat Shop in Amesbury, Mass. And he's been wonderful. I love that picture. He asked for the shortest person to come forward. I love that. And here's what it turned into. It took a long time. It took 1.5 years to build this. And it got a lot of kids' hands-on experience. And you can see the second one on the right is just starting. And we just launched it, June something, I don't know, 2 weeks ago. So that's pretty special. It's a 6-oared 3-man boat. It's a pretty cool little boat. So there's a lot of history here, U.S. Life Saving Service, Coast Guard, Navy, and can we get this Maritime Museum open up next summer? There's one of the tourist boats. I mentioned the vision. There it is. It's happening. We've raised 5.1 million. We think it's about 5.7, so something like 600,000 to go. The town of Kittery is not paid for it. We've raised all the money. That was our agreement. And here are just some examples of partnerships. Those are local Coast Guardsmen and women, young. Look at that. Look how young they are. Amazing. These are friends from the U.S. Navy. They came over and spent a work day cleaning up, helping us. This is a promotion ceremony that occurred on the beach last August. A sergeant a specialist became a sergeant. So that's extraordinary stuff. That's the U.S. Army just enjoying themselves. And here are a couple of just crazy images. It's a very beautiful place. Just the sounds and smells. And we'd like to say good stuff for free. We have a weather station. It's on our webpage. We have live streaming video. It's really, really cool. It's fun to watch storms. If there's ever really bad weather, just go watch it. That's the view from the observation tower, the watchtower. That's what the camera, that picture is from our camera. And if you'd like, hit us a quick contact button on our webpage, send us your email. We get a couple updates here and there. Great stuff. So just to wrap up, the station is historically significant. No other life-saving stations in the US have a marine railway connected to the station. Nobody else is operational. Nobody else has a surf boat like that. We'll restore it, open it to the public. Again, back to where I started, the big message, brave men rowing out to help others. And we hope to help others along the way going forward. So there's a lovely image. A couple more. I mean, this is an iconic place, just an extraordinary place. Love that picture. And this is where we started. And just to go a little bit further, of course, the local historical society has a gingerbread contest every Christmas for historic buildings. So we didn't want to just goof around. That has lights in it. Can you see that? There are lights in that building. And surprise, we won. So we're happy about that. And the rainbow hits Wood Island. Your friend Sam says thank you. And there you go. How's that?
Thank you so much, Sam.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
There's a lot to cover.
There's a lot. It's extraordinarily challenging to do in 10 minutes, but we got it banged out for you.
I think you did a great job, and John, thank you so much, and Glyneta, thank you. I want to be cognizant of everyone's time. It is 1 o'clock, but I would like to spend some time to see if there's any questions, and please feel free to leave if you need to, if your lunch hour is over. If not, I have a few question for each of the speakers, but if anyone does want to ask a question, just unmute and let us know. Okay. Hearing no takers, I just want to ask a question of each of the speakers. So Glyneta, with the Surry School, what's your secret with keeping the community engaged, and who makes your signs? Because I think they're fantastic, and you saw them in the pictures.
Well, actually, I do most of the signs for the different events that we have coming up. I try to get them up at least 8 days before each event. And the town has begun to look forward to wondering what we're doing, when we're going to do it. And the way we stay involved is that we are year round, so that this was the first year because we had water into the school this year for the kitchen and for the bathroom. So we did have to keep the furnace going. And so we are 4 seasons, and we have things going on all year round, which are of interest. There are things that the town wants to see, and just gets used more and more. And I think this week I am getting ready to start preparing for our yard sale, bake sale in July. So I've obviously been hitting up a lot of people that I have not had on my list for the different things that we need. And I remember from Sunday school where it says, you have not because you ask not. So don't be afraid to ask the people for some help. They love being asked to be involved with this old school.
That's great. Yeah, and I think, it's one of those important things that I think I've heard from many and share with others is historic buildings are great places to learn about the memories and the history of them, but it's also a good place to make new memories and to have new events and make sure that they're connected to the next generation. And I think that's clearly from what I've heard and seen, that's happening at Surry, and that's awesome. So thank you so much for all that you've done there. John, I had a question about Readfield. In your presentation, you mentioned make sure you talk about successes. And I think there's been so many successes at Readfield, but it has been a process that's taken decades. And, it's saving an old building takes saving and resaving. So, what have you done to try and keep that train moving?
Brad, we're a little bit at a standstill right now. The pandemic slowed things down, and really at this point we have one major project, which is to strengthen, repair quite a few timbers in the clock tower and the belfry, and then recreate and install a new spire as a replica of the original. That pretty much has to be done all in one project. It's quite an expensive project, and moreover, the people who can do that sort of thing in a historically accurate fashion are very few and rare. Even if you're qualified, you can get a little bit intimidated by the scope of what has to be done. So we are at a low point in our momentum right now, having to raise enough money to do that entire project, and being able to get someone who can do it, is willing to do it, and will guarantee that they'll be there in some time frame. Still in all, there's a pretty solid support for the meeting house within our community. The town has been good at giving us a bit of help every year. The town has actually constructed a walking trail around the building, which will intersect with some of the emerging sidewalks in town. We are more or less in the downtown of Readfield, if there is such a thing, and we're trying very hard to become an integral part of the little village that is evolving around downtown Readfield. So we struggle each and every day to keep things alive, but at least we're not losing ground. The pandemic has set us back. We've had a lovely group of I think all ladies who have, in spite of the pandemic, done a lot of drive-through food sales, and those have been quite popular and keep people coming back. So slow but sure at least we don't lose momentum. And we are spending a lot of idle time trying to plan for this major restoration effort, which we hope will come in the next 2 or 3 years.
Thank you. Yeah, a meeting with John, they've really taken the time to make sure that they fully plan their projects and using those as guideposts moving forward. And I think, these projects aren't easy, but they're possible. And one of those ways that I think it's possible that I've seen is having a good plan and sticking to it, even when we are in maybe a dip in momentum. So that's great. And, I look forward to that next phase and coming out again to see the progress.
As do we.
And then, Sam, I had a question for you. Just given the scope and size of Wood Island and the restoration and its now vision of becoming a maritime museum, was that always the vision? And
Yes,
okay.
It was. That the town of Kittery really was eager to demolish the building. And I mean to say, I was asked today what the largest challenge was of this project, and I think it's an easy answer that the largest challenge of this project was stopping the owner from demolishing it. And it took 5 years, I don't know, a couple $100,000 in lawyers. It was a very, very, very challenging time because what we're fighting for is the ability to restore something that's going to cost millions of dollars and be really complicated. So it was kind of stupid. But anyway, we managed to stop the town. And when you think about, what they did, they finally asked for a request for proposals. They asked for proposals from nonprofits to partner with them. So the big fight was, why don't you just ask for help? And they eventually did that. We responded. We were the only respondents. She's here. And they selected us. So in the response was, we plan to operate as a maritime museum. Here's our operational budget, estimates. So we laid out all of that in 2013. So this has been the plan the whole time.
Yeah, it's funny. Sometimes all you need to do is just convince someone to give you a chance, and it typically sometimes is the property owner or the local governing body.
The cleaning lady. Well, I got to say, if I were a leader in Kittery, Maine, and these wackadoodles showed up and said, we're going to restore this, we're going to partner with the National Guard, we're going to raise $5 million, we're going to find a way to, provide non-perishable food for other, folks that need it. I mean, I would definitely say you are crazy. That is not likely. It is not normal. And the answer is we've done everything we said we were going to do and more. So our hope is at some point, the town of Kittery buys us a beer, but we'll worry about that when we get there. But it has not been a joyous partnership with Kittery. But we have, I think, really come a long way. And I think the folks that were extremely doubtful have been shown to be off base. And no joking around, if you have a minute, on our webpage is a lovely New Hampshire Public Television program about this project. And in as much as I whip through this in 10 minutes, it's a 30-minute program. It does a very nice job. And I had nothing to do with it. I mean, obviously I was interviewed for it, but they researched it, they produced it. It's very, very excellent. So I would encourage Maine Preservation to put that on your webpage. It would be a logical link for you guys, from your most endangered, because it's a true success story for your program.
Thanks for sharing. Yeah, and on our website, through our endangered list webpage, we do have links to the various organizations that spoke today. And we're always looking to share that great content that's generated, and obviously share the continuing work from everyone. So if there aren't any other questions, I did want to just let everyone know that we are opening today. Our call for nominations for the 2022 list of most endangered historic places here in Maine. Those nominations will be open until July 27th. I'm going to enter into the chat a link. We'll also be sharing that via an e-blast, via email. We're going to send out a press release, so hopefully you'll be able to see it in local media. And that way you can spread the word. And if there's a property, place, space, building that is in your neighborhood that you're concerned about, please fill out a nomination. Feel free to reach out to me if you have questions. It's just brad@mainepreservation.org, or our phone number is listed in our website, mainepreservation.org. And we'd be interested to see what people are concerned about across the state. I know we have a few buildings and places in mind already. And like I said, those nominations will be open until July 27th. I'd like to thank all the speakers today, Glyneta, John, and Sam. Thank you so much for sharing your success stories, from being endangered to restored and on the road to restoration and preservation. Thank you so much for all your work. And thank you all for those who came out today. I hope you have a good rest of the day and week. And we hope to hear from you and see you at the next event.
Thanks for having me, Brad.
Wonderful time. Thanks.
Thank you, Brad. It's been fun.
Thank you, John.
Come visit Wood Island, everybody. We'll see you out there.